Jeffrey Epstein died back in 2019, but not since Tupac Shakur has a dead man dropped so many bangers. Like, why does her cornea mean she can't talk? Like, I don't know a lot about women's bodies, and this is embarrassing to ask. Now, this video is dropping less than a day since we found out Pam Bondi reportedly warned Trump back in May that his name was in the files multiple times.
Trump just accused Obama of treason, using the word sedacious. Yes, sedacious. It's like watching someone lose Scrabble and reality at the same time. But there's a hilarious reason why he's floundering this hard, and you're not gonna believe where this leads. Before we move on, I will like you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Trump's ability to craft chaos out of thin air might be unmatched, but even for him, this one was a doozy. In an unhinged rant, he accused Barack Obama of treason. Not just regular treason though, treason with a hint of dictionary abuse. He proudly called it sedacious. That's right folks, not seditious, which would have at least been correct in some wild universe, but sedacious. Now, unless Webster's released a MAGA edition of the English language, that's not a real word. It almost sounds like some kind of appetizer you'd find on a Cheesecake Factory menu. Naturally, the internet had a field day with it, but this wasn't just Trump being his usual linguistically challenged self. This was part of his favorite playbook. Create a big, loud distraction anytime something uncomfortable starts creeping up, and lurking just beneath this bizarre accusation, his own rapidly growing Epstein problem. As reports resurface about his connections to Jeffrey Epstein's infamous social circle, you don't have to be a political strategist to see why Trump might suddenly start yelling Obama treason from the rooftops. It's the oldest trick in his well-worn PR manual. When backed into a corner, make sure everybody's looking somewhere else, preferably at an imaginary crisis you just invented. But let's get back to sedacious. Stephen Colbert didn't miss a beat on this one. During his late-night monologue, he gleefully pointed out that Trump might accidentally be inventing new charges against himself.
Yesterday, video of the government questioning him back in 2010 started making the rounds, and you'll never guess whose name came up. Go ahead, guess. But yeah, a lot of people were suspicious about this excuse because now everything is being viewed within the context of the Epstein story. So Bondi skipping a panel on sex trafficking was bad timing.
Yes, sedacious treason, the act of committing treason while also seducing an entire nation, which, to be fair, sounds like something Trump would brag about. Jimmy Kimmel chimed in too, mocking Trump's inability to use 6-syllable words without completely wiping out. And just when you thought the embarrassment couldn't get worse, Trump's team, in some twisted attempt at damage control, decided to unleash the most hilariously bad AI-generated video of Obama being arrested. If you missed it, consider yourself lucky. It looked less like a convincing deepfake and more like something that belongs on an Xbox 360 cutscene. Late night hosts didn't just roast him, they buttered him up first, tossed him on the grill, and served him with a side of humiliation. If this seemed like a particularly frantic move, it's because it was. Accusing a former president of treason is serious, unless it's coming from Trump, in which case it's more like a toddler pointing at a lamp and accusing it of a conspiracy against the living room. But why now, of all times? It doesn't take a genius to connect the dots between this outburst and the timing of the Epstein files, which threatened to shed new light on Trump's past ties with the disgraced financier. Public figures often deflect from tough situations by stirring up chaos, but Trump took it to a new level here. As political analysts have pointed out, this isn't a sign of confidence. It's a panic move. When your first instinct to silence the noise is to accuse your most prominent predecessor of a mythical crime, you're not playing chess, you're flailing. Here's the thing about distractions though, they have to be at least somewhat believable. Nobody watching that AI video thought to themselves, wow, I can't believe they arrested Obama. Instead, they were too busy wondering if the person who created it had ever seen a human face. And sedacious, that's not a diversion, that's just a neon sign screaming, I'm desperate. It's one thing to distract, it's another thing to light yourself on fire to do it. If you thought accusing Obama of treason was the peak of Trump's chaotic distraction methods, it turns out that was just the opening act. Brace yourself because his next move to shake off the Epstein scandal was trying to lower drug prices. Yes, you heard right. Facing the fallout from reports linking him to Jeffrey Epstein's shady inner circle, Trump decided the best strategy was to suddenly talk about prescription drugs. Somehow, in his head, this was supposed to be the masterstroke that would make everyone forget about private jets, creepy island trips, and the giant Epstein crescent-shaped shadow hanging over his name. So how did he do it? Trump announced a completely wild plan to bring down the cost of prescription drugs in America by pressuring other countries to raise their prices. No, that's not a typo. He wanted to make countries like Germany charge their citizens more for the same medication so that American drug prices could magically go down. Now, if you're scratching your head trying to figure out the logic here, you're not alone. Critics didn't just look confused, they started calling it crackhead logic, and honestly, that feels generous. Even a crackhead might have taken one look at this plan and asked, "Are you okay, dude?" Josh Johnson, the comedian and late-night commentator, broke it down best. He described Trump's policy as the political equivalent of a street hustle.
And it just so happens her next appearance was scheduled last night at a summit against human trafficking. Pam, show us what you got.
I do have a note from the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, that I wanted to share.
But is the cornea in the throat? Like, the only member of the Trump administration that I would believe has an eye injury is, and speaking of bad timing,
Roy Black, a prominent criminal defense attorney who defended Epstein, passed away on Monday at the age of 80.
It's like someone selling you a bike chain for $50, Johnson joked. It's confusing, it's overpriced, and no matter how much you argue, you still walk away, wondering what just happened. The absurdity didn't stop there. Johnson pointed out that Trump's idea to fix drug prices actually did the opposite of helping. It would have made them worse for everyone, including Americans. By trying to strong-arm other countries into paying more, Trump was basically gambling with international trade and leaving everyday people to pick up the tab. But hey, as long as it gets the headlines off Epstein, right? The jokes practically wrote themselves. Critics, including late-night hosts, couldn't help but point out how wildly exaggerated Trump's promises were. During one speech, he bragged about price reductions of 1,000%, 600%, even 1,500%. First of all, we're not even sure math works that way. Secondly, these numbers weren't just unrealistic, they were physically impossible. It was as if he threw random figures into a blender and hoped someone would take him seriously. This kind of hyperbole didn't just make him look desperate, it made people question how much thought, or lack thereof, went into this strategy in the first place. But the convoluted nature of the plan wasn't its only problem. Trump decided to double down by threatening European countries with trade restrictions if they refused to play along. Imagine telling Germany, "Let us price gouge for meds," or say goodbye to selling your cars in the US. It's the type of move you'd expect from someone who learned diplomacy from a mob movie. Analysts quickly pointed out how this approach could blow up in the US's face. Forget about lowering drug prices. This plan had the potential to disrupt trade, harm consumers, and strain relationships with key allies. Maybe that's what crackhead logic really means. Take a bad situation and somehow make it worse for everyone involved. People started noticing a pattern, and not a flattering one. Every time things got tough, Trump trotted out increasingly bizarre stunts to regain control of the narrative. But at this point, his strategy wasn't fooling anyone. In fact, it was making things worse. Each ridiculous distraction, like trying to frame himself as the hero of lower drug prices, only reinforced the idea that he was panicking. And let's be real, when even his supporters are struggling to defend his actions, it's not a good sign. Trump's attempts to dodge the Epstein scandal aren't just desperate, they're tearing down his image strip by strip. Even his most eccentric supporters are jumping ship. Jacob Chansley, the so-called QAnon shaman and once a Trump superfan, outright called him a fraud. This guy stormed the Capitol in a Viking hat, yet even he thinks Trump's a joke now. Meanwhile, the Epstein files hang over Trump like a storm cloud, refusing to disappear. Bernice King captured the public's frustration perfectly when she tweeted, "Now do the Epstein files." The question is, how much longer can Trump's distractions keep the truth at bay?